Thank you so much, Jieh-Yung. I will encourage our guest speaker to unmute yourself, so we have like a quick answers for those questions. So the first question is maybe to Jieh-Yung and Muneera, because you are the 2020 judges. So what qualities do you actually looking from the talent pool, from the applicants?
Well, certainly from my perspective, it was challenging because every applicant that submitted an application to me was a winner. Like they've all achieved, you know, um, they've all achieved very strong accomplishments within their various fields, and not only that, but also they've demonstrated a commitment to pushing for the cause around strengthening Asian Australian representation and cultural diversity leadership. So for me, what I was looking for was a combination of, whether, people have already been recognized before with various other awards. And also, if they don't, some people might not have done it as much compared to some of their fellow applicants, but if they are able to demonstrate a commitment to furthering the cause, that weighed heavily upon me as well. But I guess the good example that I would give was last year with Muneera, in terms of deciding why she should be the overall winner. There was a lot of discussion around Muneera and another applicant who was actually quite well known in the community already, who already had a profile, who already to sort of not to dilute his accomplishments, but he already had a significant amount of publicity already. So, we made the decision last year to, award the overall winner to Muneera, because, we wanted to provide her that platform to be able to, have her accomplishments recognized, but also the opportunity for her to, further mentor and support other emerging leaders. And I would say that Muneera has done that with flying colors. She's utilized the platform. She's embraced the awards. She's been a fantastic ambassador for the awards. And that was, that was for me, the right decision at the time. For this year, I think we took a different approach, because I think Lima's already has been hugely successful in her field. But I think for me personally, and this is no due respect to all the other awardees as part of this year's cohort, and Tuanh might cringe when I say this, but like for me, like the decision to support Lyma, and I'm proud to say that I did, was we wanted to highlight, other aspects of the law within, I guess, the Asian Australian community, but also the wider Australian community, because, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess people have perceptions that Asian Australians enter the legal profession because of status, because of monetary gain, because of financial drive, etc. But I guess with Lima's involvement in in her commitment to human rights, into supporting stateless individuals at the International Tribunal, and also working on pushing for human decency and equality in that regard, really struck out for me. And I think it was an opportunity to showcase that other Asian Australians enter that particular field for a variety of different reasons, not just the stereotypes that people might believe. So again, these factors are it's a very challenging duty to actually say there's one winning formula to this, but this year's cohort has been particularly exceptional, as is last year's as well. And I said earlier on, it's very difficult to pick between hundreds of applications to the 40, and then you pick out of the 40, you choose 9 category winners, and from there you pick the one. So never an easy process, because I think everybody deserves to be recognized for their accomplishments. But for those, unfortunately, who didn't make it through the 40 under 40, I strongly encourage you to apply again next year, and to put your case forward, put your best case forward, and yeah, continue to make change in your respective fields.
Thank you so much. Do you
I
have
would add one point here regarding being on the judgment panel this year. For me, it was a learning opportunity as well, from all the senior judges who were around me. And one thing that I wanted to see was that the stories that were being shared there, how impactful that story will be for others who would be able to relate to that story. And I think and it wasn't easy because all of them had really amazing stories. And it comes down to who would people want to turn to if they would need mentoring or if they want to look up to.
Okay. So next question actually addressed to Tuanh, but I think all of you can answer if you want. It's more about to the earlier career. Do we really need to hide our uniqueness and Asianness to get where you are now? Is it necessary? And how we balance this?
It's a great question, Judy, and it's one that I think even with the benefit of hindsight, you couldn't answer definitively. But I do, my view has always been that I think hiding my Asianness or trying to deny my Asianness made it harder for me to be comfortable with, the career that I had chosen. I mean, I love what I do. I'm a deal junkie by nature. I don't do it for the money and the status, Jieh-Yung.
I know you don't. I know you don't. The stereotype, unfortunately, is there.
But I love what I do, but I think I think trying to hide and trying to do what I do in a way that wasn't authentic to me and wasn't true to who I was, I actually think it made it harder than if I had simply just accepted that this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to do it my way. Yeah, I think that's probably where, when I reflect back, that's probably where I sort of get to. And I think being authentic and being true to who you are helps with the self-doubt. I mean, we've sort of touched on self-doubt and sort of looking at your weakness and focusing on that. And I think if you're true to who you are and you're embracing of the uniqueness of you, I do honestly think it gives you the confidence to just keep going, and that confidence just exudes in everything you do. So I think for me, I don't think hiding or having been more Asian would have inhibited where I got to this stage.
Thank you so much, Tuanh.
I can just add to that. I actually think that it's the journey, isn't it? I mean, from being ashamed of who you are. I mean, I always wished that my name wasn't Nguyen when I was, a kid and in my teenage years, because it just meant that you were, boxed in this group. But I think that perhaps had it not been for that sense of shame and that sense of, disintegration of self, that you can't quite build up yourself. Sometimes you need to break to rebuild. And so I think that's actually just part of the journey, because you will come, and this is kind of what I meant when I said, you've got to know yourself, but knowing yourself is a continuation of reflecting on who you are, because you're constantly changing as well. So to me, it's the same me who felt that way and the same me who feels proud of who I am now. And I think it's a continuum. So it's not, in my experience, it's probably not correct to kind of cut it off at one point in my life to say, I was ashamed of myself, or I was ashamed of who I was, or my surname, and to say whether or not that helped me. It was just a continuation of realizing who you are and growing from it, and then embracing it. And that's, I think, the concepts that Tuanh, you talked about when you talked about authenticity.
Good. Thank you so much, Lyma. Due to the time limitation, I will ask the one last questions, but I will share around the questions to our guests afterwards. So the question is about like how to find your purpose, your define goals. And the second part is once you find it, you need, like we all mentioned about how important is the networking, your networks, but how to develop one, like a professional network, like you don't have a lot of friends. So over to you guys.
Should I go first?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So the sense of purpose, I'm just going to briefly share a story. After becoming the under 40 award winner, I was contacted by one of the ambassadors of one of the country in Australia to have dinner with them. And the question came up, and the question was that where do you see yourself in next 10 years? I mean, that was a very abrupt question for me, and I hadn't had the answer at that time. And I just thought about what was I doing 10 years ago? I was in Pakistan. I had absolutely zero idea that I will be 10 years later sitting in Melbourne having a dinner with an ambassador after winning an award. Life is uncertain. We don't know what's coming next. Just, it's when you can only see a bit further and plan about it, but always be ready for the uncertainties in life. The purpose comes from your life. What's important to you, what sparks your passion to achieve something, and what makes you happy. And that purpose can change as well, it can evolve as well. So life is not stuck in one dimension. And the second part of the question was?
How to expand networking.
I mean, I think me as someone who came here as an international student without knowing anyone, I would say my first point of contact was the other international students who were in the university, making friends with them, going out with them. Uh, didn't have any bigger network who would support in those terms, but once I got my feet into the academia, I myself had to go out of my way to find those networks, but and the right people where I would belong and I would be appreciated. So you have to put in some effort and to make yourself visible to those networks. And if I mean they're right for you, they will appreciate you and they will accept you.
Thank you so much.
Networks it's really important. I mean, it's also for me. I LinkedIn stalk a lot of people, so like sometimes I'm shameless when it comes to messaging people on LinkedIn, wanting to connect and wanting to, I guess, find some similarities and synergies. So I guess that's the beauty of the online world, is that you're able to sort of do that. And I think it's really important to, spend time on your networks. It's not just about connecting with them and having them on LinkedIn. It's actually investing time in them and actually sharing them around with other people as well. And that's something that I try and do a lot in the role that I have with the Centre for Asian Australian Leadership. It's people, come to me asking, hey, we want to meet this person, or can you facilitate an introduction, which I'm more than happy to do. And I think sometimes by doing that, you grow your own networks based on that. So, and this question we get a lot, because a lot of Asian Australians feel that it is very difficult. And I think I've seen that as part of the Q&A sort of commentary right now. It is challenging to actually, expand your networks and not knowing where to start. But sometimes, even like building on your existing networks by saying, hey, hey, we blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, hey, Tuanh, I understand that we know this person, like, have you met this person before? Can you introduce me? So it's not, I can't stress how important that is in terms of building your career and your professional life, investing time in your networks. And please don't be shy about it. Please, don't feel that you're impeding on people's time, because if you're not doing it, someone else will. So I think it's important to stay ahead of that. But at the same time, when you build those networks, do share them around and do connect. When you see someone else when you see 2 or 3 people that that has similar experiences, connect them. Be that facilitator. So I think that has always been quite helpful for me. In terms of motivation, I think the big driver for me is wanting to elevate Asian Australians as part of our national tapestry, because if you look at Australia as a whole, you know, Asian Australians don't feature in our national conversation, despite being 14 to 15% of the Australian population. You know, we are living in the Asian century. It is our time being an Asian Australian. You know, we have the skills and we have the experiences and the networks to help Australia better understand the region. And I've certainly had the privilege of using my own sort of, I guess, sort of knowledge of Chinese history and Chinese culture to have benefited my career in terms of helping Australia better understand China. And utilize those skills. You know, these are hidden skills that we have that we may not even know about. So I think it's really important for us to be a part of Australia's nationhood journey. And what I want to see is an Australia that fully embraces not just Asian Australians, but all Australians from different walks of life in these leadership positions, because that's how we can be the modern multicultural country that we claim to be. And if Australia gets it right, I feel that we can be the benchmark for so many other countries in the world. That's my motivation.
Thank you so much, Jieh-Yung. Tuanh and Lyma, do you have anything to add?
Just on the question about how do you find your purpose? I mean, this is such a big question, and you know, many books and many movies and epics have been written about this question. But I really appreciated Muneera's presentation where she said, you know, sometimes you need to blank out the noise and sit with yourself and be in solitude to really listen to yourself. But you also need to immerse yourself in experiences that are outside of your comfort zone so that you can explore, you know, what it is that you really want to do. Traveling, you know, reading, things that enable you to reflect and also constantly reflecting upon who you are, what your choices are, why you're making those choices. That's an exercise in knowing yourself and finding your purpose. There's also a practical component, I think, which is trying to get work experience, even if it means that you're volunteering, because when I'm just thinking about when I was, you know, finishing law school, you know, when I did a work experience at the DPP, I felt like this is where I belong. And then when I did a work experience at Legal Aid, I thought that was where I belonged. And when I did work experience at a commercial law firm, I thought that was where I belonged. So, you know, you only get to know what you want to do and what you would enjoy doing and what you would find fulfilling by actually doing some of that and finding out what it is like to do that. So it's a constant exercise in finding who you are, but there's no one way about it.
Thank you so much, Nina. Do you want to add something again?
Yeah, look, I mean, I echo the comments that all the other panelists have made. I mean, I think in terms of purpose, that is such a broad question. And when I think back in my career and, you know, where I was 15 years ago coming out of law school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no plans. And to be honest, even to this day, you know, it is very much step by step, you know, what's the next thing that's driving me, as opposed to, you know, what's that, you know, why am I here and what am I looking to achieve, you know, in the next 10 years, or what's the legacy I want to leave behind. So, I mean, I reflected on the story of how I even got involved in cultural diversity advocacy, and, you know, it wasn't something planned. It wasn't something that I said, you know, this has to change and I'm going to go and find the groups that do it. It really is just that organic, you know, I networked with the right people, found something that I was interested in and developed a passion for it. And I can say that very much about my career in corporate law as well. And in fact, when I left law school, I thought I wanted to be a litigator. And, you know, that was, did my rotation through litigation, loved it, thought, yep, this is for me. And then I ended up in corporate law and, you know, first deal, and it was like, bang, yep, this is where I want to be. But for me, definitely, I've had those moments where I've had the doubts and had the, you know, is it really for me? It might have been for me at one point in time, but what next do I want to do? Do I want to still keep going, or, you know, what do I want to focus on? And so, to Lyma's point, it's really about that constant evolution and constantly reflecting and assessing and looking forward, you know, in with that reflection in mind. So, you know, I think we shouldn't get too hung up on, you know, what's the ultimate purpose and why are we here and what's the legacy we want to leave behind. But really, I think just focusing on how you can make an impact on a day-by-day level in the circumstances you're in, I think is probably the better way to view that question. And then in terms of networks, I mean, for me, my network is very much about developing relationships. A lot of the times it's just, you know, getting to know people organically. You know, I try not to get out there and have a particular sole purpose or anything like that, but really, you know, just developing the networks pretty organically through the relationships and the contacts that I have. And from there, like Jieh-Yung said, growing it through their networks and then plugging into that. So for me, I think it's really about, you know, finding those organic opportunities to broaden your network. But certainly, I think if there are people that you definitely want to seek out, you know, we've got such great technology now, you know, to jump on LinkedIn, you know, send people a message. And my experience is that most people are willing to, you know, to connect with you and have a conversation if you're showing a genuine interest in that person. So I think, you know, bottom line is have that genuine interest, and I think your networks will come from that.
Thank you so much. Due to the time limitation, I have to close this event. Thank you